Welcome back to another explainer. So if you spend literally any time online, you already know there are thousands of productivity tips out there, and they're all screaming for your attention. But what does the actual science say? Today, our goal is to cut straight through the noise of online hacks and TikTok trends. We're going to separate the hard evidence from the fluff by looking directly at what neuroscience and psychology actually prove about focus, rest, and human performance. Okay, let's just dive right into this. Does working more hours actually mean getting more done? We've all been totally conditioned to believe in hustle culture. You know, that traditional, continuous 8-hour grind. The default assumption is just, if you want more output, you just put in more hours, right? Well, it turns out science has a very different answer to that.
And that answer comes down to this surprising number, 4.5. According to research by Alex Sojin-Campang and some really comprehensive studies of knowledge workers, 4.5 hours is the realistic biological maximum for truly focused, deep work per day. You literally cannot sustain peak cognitive output for 8 straight hours. It's just biologically impossible for most humans.
Section 1. Deep work and brain rhythms.
So, why does the traditional continuous workday fail us cognitively? It's not because you lack discipline, it's about how our brains are actually wired. To really get this, we need to look at Cal Newport's concept of deep work. He defines this as cognitively demanding tasks performed in distraction-free concentration. This isn't just casually answering emails or organizing your folders. This distraction-free concentration is the absolute highest value work you can possibly do. And precisely because our world is getting increasingly noisy, the ability to actually sit down and do this kind of work is becoming super rare.
What's really interesting about this is how it maps perfectly onto our natural biological cycles, which are known as ultradian rhythms. We start at a state of high alertness, we hit our peak cognitive output around 90 minutes in, and then by 110 minutes, our brain literally demands a rest phase. It brilliantly illustrates that your brain operates in waves of energy. This proves we absolutely must work with our brain's rhythms, not fight against them.
So how do we actually do that? Well, one scientifically sound method comes down to the number 25. This is the whole foundation of the Pomodoro technique. You do 25 minutes of highly focused work, followed by 5 minutes of rest. Why does this work so well? Because these short, focused sprints prevent cognitive fatigue and they help maintain your dopamine levels. That ensures you have sustained motivation to get through those 90-minute biological cycles without burning out.
Now, when you master these intervals, you can reach what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls the flow state. This is that amazing mental state of total absorption where time literally distorts and your output is just maximized. But, it doesn't just happen by accident. You have to meet 3 conditions. First, you need clear goals. Second, you need immediate feedback. And third, this is crucial, you have to tackle a challenge that is just slightly above your current skill level. It keeps you completely engaged.
Section 2. The costs of distractions.
If flow and deep work are our ultimate goals, then our biggest enemy is definitely our modern obsession with trying to do everything all at once. We love to boast about multitasking, but the reality is way different. What we think we do is process multiple things simultaneously. What the brain actually does is rapid task switching. The brain simply cannot truly multitask. Actually, scratch that. It can't multitask on cognitive work. It's physically impossible. When you try, you're just bouncing rapidly back and forth, creating this massive, exhausting illusion of productivity. And the actual cost of that illusion is staggering, 23. I want you to remember this shocking number from Gloria Mark's study out of UC Irvine. It takes an average of 23 minutes to regain your full deep focus after a single interruption. Think about that. You just glance at a notification or check a quick email, and you've completely derailed your brain's momentum for nearly half an hour. No way, right? But it's true.
This lost time is a phenomenon known as the cognitive switching penalty. It's the 15 to 20 minutes of focus recovery time that just evaporates every single time you switch tasks. This penalty right here is exactly why constantly checking your inbox or keeping Slack open absolutely destroys your capacity for that deep, valuable work we talked about earlier. You are constantly paying a heavy tax on your attention.
Section 3. Rest as a weapon.
All of this brings us to a total paradigm shift. If continuous grinding doesn't work and distraction destroys focus, what is the actual secret? Well, rest is not the enemy of productivity, it is the foundation of it. And if you're skeptical of the modern science, just look at history's greatest minds. Charles Darwin only worked 4.5 hours a day. Charles Dickens walked up to 20 miles daily to clear his head. Albert Einstein, famous for taking regular naps. They inherently understood that downtime was when the brain actually synthesized all their hard work.
Today, thanks to researchers like Matthew Walker, we know exactly why this works. It all comes down to the glymphatic system. This is literally your brain's internal waste clearance system, and it primarily operates while you are asleep. It flushes out metabolic waste and consolidates your memories. When you sacrifice sleep to hustle more, this system breaks down. And here's the scariest part. Sleep-deprived people consistently and wrongly overestimate their own performance while it is objectively deteriorating.
But rest isn't just about sleep, it's also about physical renewal. Have you ever noticed how much sharper you feel right after a run? That's all thanks to BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You can think of it like fertilizer for your brain cells. The research shows that just 20 to 30 minutes of aerobic exercise causes your brain to release BDNF, which radically improves your focus and memory for hours afterward. It's a real game changer.
Another essential way to protect your mental energy is by understanding decision fatigue. Your willpower and your ability to make decisions, they actually share a mental resource that depletes throughout the day. Every single choice drains the tank a little bit. This is exactly why super productive leaders like Barack Obama and Mark Zuckerberg famously wore the exact same clothes every day. They were automating trivial choices so they could save their willpower and front-load their absolute hardest work.
Section 4. Science-backed planning tactics. Okay, so now that we've mapped out the biological constraints of our brains, that we max out at 4.5 hours, we desperately need deep work, we get wrecked by distractions, and we require immense rest, how do we actually execute on this? Well, we start with the Eisenhower matrix. You categorize your tasks by urgency and importance. But here is the critical detail where almost everyone fails. We tend to totally neglect the important but not urgent quadrant. But guys, that is exactly where long-term strategy, your health, and your deep relationships live. If you're only fighting urgent fires all day long, you're never going to accomplish the deep work that actually moves the needle.
Another hurdle we have to outsmart is Parkinson's law. This states that work naturally expands to fill the time available for its completion. Basically, if you give yourself a week to write a report, guess what? It's going to take a week. The scientific fix for this? Artificial deadlines. By setting a tighter, maybe even slightly uncomfortable deadline, you force your brain into focus mode, and more importantly, you kill the perfectionism that tends to consume unlimited time.
But a quick warning, when you do set those deadlines, you have to beware of the planning fallacy. Brilliant researchers Kahneman and Tversky proved that humans systematically underestimate how long tasks will actually take us. We basically always assume the absolute best-case scenario. So the practical fix for this cognitive bias? Always add a 30 to 50% time buffer to whatever your initial optimistic estimate is. So let's pull the whole shebang together into an ultimate tactical execution framework. First, add those 30 to 50% time buffers to your tasks. Second, single task using time blocking. That means you assign every single hour of your day in advance so you aren't just reacting to random distractions. And third, apply second-order thinking. Before you start any task, ask yourself, what will completing this make possible? It's such a simple question, but it acts as a ruthless filter to cut out all that fake work that just feels productive.
Wow, okay, we have covered a lot of ground today. Everything from the 4.5-hour biological limit to the glymphatic system and the dreaded cognitive switching penalty. I really want to challenge you to reevaluate your own hustle mentality based on all this hard data. So, tell us, which of these scientific findings surprised you the most? Drop your answer down in the comments below. We really want to hear how you're going to apply this to your own life. And hey, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss our new explainer every single week. Thanks so much for learning with us, and I'll catch you in the next one.